Hi, Andre again here, and welcome to our journey using financial statements as a key way to engage and to excite your existing association members. Our scorecard shows our income statement of the way that we make money, and we combine that with our balance sheet of the way that we create wealth into the 5 key chapters of our financial statement story. Starting off with growth and how effectively do we grow our organization. Then in chapter 2, we convert growth into superior profitability. Of course, chapter 3 is all about the balance sheet. And then chapter 4 is about the king. And that tells us how effectively we are managing the first 3 chapters. And lastly, we talk about the return on our capital employed, representing the return that we create on the invested dollar. At this point, we can simply measure the impact of different strategies. For example, the plan was not to grow by 23%, but to grow by 30%. What impact would that have on the business? Automatically, we have converted our financials into a 30% growth rate of business. Is this good or bad growth? The key question is that we have to create a communication system in order to measure the impact of doing something to our business. Simply, we do that by pressing the net change button. What this shows us is the impact of that additional growth rate from 23 to 30%, showing us that we require an additional $200,000 of revenue, producing a net benefit to our income statement of some $34,000. This allows us to evaluate the impact of that additional growth, showing a profitability improvement by just over half a cent per revenue dollar. However, we do require $6,000 worth of additional cash in order to fund that growth. Why do we need that cash? What our cash flow management shows us is 3 critical areas of reviewing cash. The first area is what is our actual cash flow. Then what we're wanting to do is to look at that what if cash flow, and then lastly the impact of doing something. In this case, the suggestion was what if we could grow by $200,000, and why is it that we require an additional $6,000 of cash to fund that growth? Returning to our scorecard, we have the ability to dig deeper into each of our key focus areas. For example, let's take chapter 2, profitability management. Why is our profitability declining from 13 to 12 cents in the revenue dollar? Automatically, we notice that our margins are declining from nearly 42 cents in the revenue dollar to about 38 cents. So obviously, what we're wanting to determine is what is the cost of margin destruction. We simply change our margins to exactly what they were last period, and we can evaluate what this cost of margin destruction is. Clearly, we notice that a 4 percentage point reduction in our margins cost us, from an opportunity viewpoint, about $146,000 of operational profit and about $114,000 of net cash, showing how sensitive those margins are and what happens if we grow and we discount whilst we're growing. Return to our original numbers, and once again we can investigate chapter 3. For example, we notice that our inventories have grown from an average 88-day holding to about 122, and yet we've grown our business significantly. So what cash consumption did that inventory growth require in our balance sheet? Let's have a quick look. Once again, I've just returned it to what we did achieve, so there's no specific improvement, and we can quickly evaluate that impact of that cash flow as we see that additional 34 days, that movement from that 88 days, that created an additional consumption of $221,000. In other words, our business would have been better off. We would have had $221,000 more in the bank if we had not done that same profit, same growth, same everything else. Scorecard and undo. And the story continues. Of course, from a cash management viewpoint, there are so many great little insights that we can drive and show how cash is created or absorbed when we grow or decline our business. And lastly, of course, that return on that invested dollar, which is the combination of how we manage the income statement and the balance sheet. Great learning for many organizations where they need to focus their scarce resources. Our story doesn't end there. What we now have is the ability to take our learning from our one-page scorecard and project those learnings into the future. Simply by, let's say, for example, if we wish to look at the next 90-day business plan, we click on our budget, press wizard, and this allows us to quickly establish what our future holds based on our different planning. And let's say, for example, in the last 90 days, we believe our business is going to be doing about $1.2 million. We look at roughly the same kind of margins. Our average variable cost is the same. Our fixed costs will increase slightly because we might be recruiting some additional people. Our depreciation will change a little bit because we've got a little bit of capital expenditure. Our average cost of debt is the same. We're going to focus on the receivables. We noticed what that did in our one-page scorecard. We're going to bring that down to 50 days. Our average inventory days, yes, there's going to be a big focus on that. Get that down to 110 days. And we're going to pay our vendors slightly quicker, and we're going to spend $6,000 on technology, which is our capital expenditure budget. We simply click update, and that provides us with our next night and evaluate our budget in our one-page scorecard, which allows us to see the effectiveness of our future strategy, specifically measured within our 5 key chapters to the financial statement story. And now we have a way not only to evaluate our past, but also see how our future strategies will impact our financial performance.